Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg is testifying before the European Union. Let's listen in.
A full review. So that's much less information than apps can get on mobile platforms today. Second, if you haven't used an app in 3 months, we're going to prevent that app from accessing your information until you authorize it again. Third, last month, we showed everyone on the top of their newsfeed a tool with a list of all the apps that they've used, as well as a simple way to remove permissions for any apps that they no longer want to access. Finally, we're investigating every single app that had access to a large amount of people's information before we locked down our platform in 2014. And where we have concerns, we're going to conduct an audit and suspend the app. And if we conclude that people's personal data was misused, we will ban the app and the developer completely and tell everyone who is affected. So far, we've investigated thousands of apps, and we've suspended more than 200. As we work to protect people's information, we also need to give people more control. At the heart of Europe's new data protection law, the GDPR, are 3 important principles: control, transparency, and accountability. And we've always shared these values and given people the ability to control what information they share and who they share it with. And now, we're going even further to comply with these strong new rules. We're making the same controls and settings available to people who use Facebook around the world. In addition to GDPR, we're also working to give people important new controls. For example, in your web browser, you already have a simple way to clear your cookies and browsing history. So we're building a version of this for Facebook too, that we're calling Clear History. It will enable you to see the information we receive from websites and apps when you use them, and to clear this information from your account and turn off the ability to store it associated with your account going forward. Now, when you clear your cookies in your web browser, that can make your browsing experience worse. You may have to sign back into every website that you use, and clearing your history on Facebook may make parts of your experience worse too. But this is an example of the kind of control that we think that people should have, and something that privacy advocates and regulators, especially here in Europe, have long called for. Now let's turn to elections. In the next 18 months, there are important elections globally, including many here in Europe, as well as for the European Parliament, the United States, Brazil, India, and Indonesia. In 2016, we were too slow to identify Russian interference on Facebook in the US presidential election. At the time, we were more focused on more traditional kinds of cyber attacks, like phishing and malware. And we identified those and we told people. But we weren't prepared enough for the kind of coordinated misinformation operations that we are now aware of. So since then, we've made significant investments to protect the integrity of elections by making these kinds of attacks much harder to do on Facebook. And I have more confidence that we're going to get this right going forward, because we've already done a better job in several important elections since 2016, including the French presidential election, the German elections, and the Alabama special election in the US last year. We're working with governments and other technology companies to share information about threats in real time. So for example, in Germany, before the 2017 elections, we worked directly with the German Federal Office for Information Security. We're also using new technology, including AI, to remove fake accounts that are responsible for much of the false news, misinformation, and bad ads that people can see on Facebook. In the run-up to the 2017 French presidential election, our systems found and took down more than 30,000 fake accounts. And in the Alabama special election in the US, we were able to proactively detect and remove fake accounts from Macedonia that were trying to spread misinformation. Now, it's worth adding that a lot of fake news is economically motivated, not politically motivated. Right? It's much like email spam in that way. The playbook for fighting this is removing the ways in which spammers can make money, so then they just go and do something else. So to do this, We've banned sites that regularly run fake news from using our ads products so they can't make money from it. We've built our systems to penalize clickbait and sensationalism. And we also reduce the distribution of stories and newsfeed that have been rated as false by third-party fact-checkers. Finally, we're making advertising on Facebook much more transparent. So we built a new tool that lets you see all of the ads that any page is running. So now you can see all of the different messages that an advertiser or a political actor are sending to all of the different audiences that they're trying to reach. We're now testing this in Canada and Ireland, and we're going to launch it globally this summer. Increased transparency is going to lead to increased accountability and responsibility for all advertisers on our systems over time. Now, security is not a problem that you can ever fully solve. We face sophisticated, well-funded adversaries who are constantly evolving. But we're committed to continuing to invest heavily and improving our techniques to make sure that we stay ahead. And we're going to keep building tools to help more people make their voices heard in the democratic process as well. In addition to working on election integrity, Facebook plays a positive role in elections around the world by helping leaders like all of you connect directly with voters. And our Get Out the Vote efforts have helped millions of people register around the world who may have not gone to the polls otherwise. I am determined to keep building tools that bring people together in meaningful new ways while we work to address our safety and security challenges as well. We're very committed to Europe. Almost 400 million people in Europe rely on our services to connect and communicate with their friends and the communities that matter most to them. Dublin is home to our European headquarters. London is home to our biggest engineering team outside of the United States. Paris is home to a big part of our artificial intelligence research. And we have data centers in Sweden and Ireland, and we're building a new one in Denmark that will come online in 2020. By the end of 2018, Facebook will employ 10,000 people across 12 European cities, up from 7,000 today. And we will continue to invest in Europe in the years ahead, including we've committed to providing 1 million people and small businesses with digital skills training by 2020. Now, my priority has always been our social mission of connecting people, helping people build communities, and working to bring the world closer together. And I believe deeply in what we're doing. And when we address these challenges, I know that we're going to look back and view helping people connect and giving more people a voice as a positive force, both here in Europe and around the world. So thank you for inviting me to the European Parliament today, and I am ready to take your questions, which I'm looking forward to hearing, and I'll answer together at the end.
Thank you. The first speaker is Manfred Weber, Chair of the Group of the European People Party. You have the floor.
Mr. Zuckerberg, welcome to the European Parliament, and I want to thank also our President Tajani for organizing this meeting. To apologize is a good thing, and it is absolutely needed. Consumers in Europe are worried, disappointed, concerned about what happened, and that's why it's great that you are here, you are present, you are showing respect toward the EU consumers. That is a good, positive signal. But you know that this is not enough, and you said this in your presentation. Now it's about acting. The implementation of the data protection rules, which we'll get into force this week, is an important step. It's good that you are implementing now the rules we are setting, and it's also good to hear for us as European lawmakers that they are using the European data protection rules for global standards. So that's good to know, and it's good to see. In this regard of this acting aspect, I have two very concrete questions, first of all. The first question is about when you recognized the scandal about Cambridge Analytica, you decided to stop the access of some of your business partners to the database of Facebook. You said this in your presentation also today. I want to ask you, why didn't you do it for all the business partners? So my first concrete question is Cambridge Analytica an isolated case, or would you say it's the top of the iceberg? So the concrete question is, can you guarantee to the Europeans that another scandal will not happen in 3, 6 or 9 months' time? A second point in regard to this question of acting is, and there I want to make a follow-up of the questions in Washington. Our colleagues did already a great job there. Senator Kamala Harris asked whether you personally made the decision in December 2015, when you became aware about the Cambridge Analytica data breach, to not notify your users. Because that is, I think, an extremely important point. Transparency, that the people know what is happening with the data, is crucial for us as Europeans. So were you informed, and why no information to the users? That are the two questions I want to put on the table on the scandal itself. I think our LIBE colleagues will do a follow-up on this. That's why I want to also come to a more general reflection on Facebook and what it means for our societies. Your company has already today a tremendous power. You know this. For example, the question who is number 1 on the messages and who is number 10, who is number 100. There you have an algorithm behind, and these rules are incomprehensible for the moment. Nobody knows about them. We should, I think, discuss about the laws that oblige you to make these algorithms public in the future. Because when you have so much power about who is visible in the social media and who is not visible, that cannot be longer anymore a decision of a company. That is, I think, a decision for our societies. I think this is necessary, and I'm interested in your arguments why we shouldn't do so. And in addition, I want to underline that between Europe and America we have different understanding about what is allowed to publish and what is not allowed to publish. In Europe, for example, the question of videos and texts on radicalization by Islamists or the glorification of Nazi propaganda is unacceptable for us in Europe. In America, a lot of people would say that is covered by freedom of expression. So I see a lot of member states for the moment asking Facebook to voluntarily ban these messages. I think that is very submissive. We should not ask the company to do so, to delete it. I think we should clearly regulate clear rules, what is allowed in social networks in Europe and what not. And finally, during your testimony before the Congress, Senator Lindsey Graham asked you repeatedly the name of only one of your competitors, only one, without success. Probably you can give us today for the European market a competitor. Probably there is one in Europe if there is nobody in America. Is there today in Europe an alternative to Facebook for the services you are offering? WhatsApp and Instagram are already part of your empire. Would you consider your company as a monopoly? And I have to say, as a politician, I believe in markets and rules, but I also want to stop all kinds of possible monopolies. And that's
All right, so that was a live feed that we were getting from the European Parliament, where Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg was being grilled by the lawmakers there in the wake of the data breach and the Cambridge Analytica scandal that broke out lately. And yet again, Mark Zuckerberg apologized for what happened, and he's assured that from next time onwards, the company, the social media giant, will ensure that there are no loopholes in the system. For more on this, I'm joined by WION's Ankit Tuteja. Ankit, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. The key takeaway of this session was another apology by Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
So, Archana, it's been more than 15 minutes since the hearing began, and there hasn't been anything concrete. We only got to hear about what we already know. And as expected, Zuckerberg has apologized once again, and he has, let me read out the statement that he gave. He said, "We did not take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a mistake. I'm sorry." And he ended up saying, "I'm committed to getting this right." But the point here is, what is the meaning of getting this right? Because it's been 14 years and we have heard around 14 apologies from Zuckerberg since 2003. The point here is this just an apology or is it a sincere apology? Zuckerberg has, however, gone on to say that people's safety, user safety is more important than their profits. But the point is, what is the company exactly going to do? And throughout the hearing, the answer that he gave, he only focused around points or things that we already knew. He said that we are going to look into the apps that are using details of users who are getting a large quantity of data from users. And so far, Facebook has in fact suspended 200 apps. And another thing he pointed out was a privacy feature that is a clear browsing tool. And this is something we already know of, that Facebook is soon going to come up with a privacy tool that's actually allowing users to clear browsing history with Facebook servers. And in fact, people can go on to, in the first place only, they can refuse to share data with Facebook. And also he mentioned about, he touched upon GDPR, which is EU's new data protection laws. So far he only talked about all the things that we knew. He made an apology, and it happens to be 14th or 15th apology in a row from 2003. And we're yet to see what happens next.
Right, Ankit, for the benefit of our viewers, could you please tell us that the last time when we saw, it was Mark Zuckerberg's testimony before the Congress in America, and this time it was before the European Union Parliament. Could you tell us why this happened? Because if one were to understand, is that the European Union is soon going to introduce a legislation which is going to be very harsh as far as data breach is concerned.
Archana, if we look at the scale of the breach, 87 million users across the globe were affected by the Facebook data breach that involved Cambridge Analytica as well. So much so that they used the data to help Trump win the election. The data was used to for designing Trump's campaigns. So the scale of breach is very big, and therefore Facebook is under fire from both the sides of the Atlantic. Last month, US Congress questioned Facebook, and it was a 10-hour-long grilling. And so if you compare it with the EU's grilling, it hasn't been anything so far. It's been 15 to 20 minutes so far, and there hasn't been any tough questions so far for the Facebook CEO. In fact, the only question that matters is the Cambridge Analytica controversy the only one, or there are more such cases that people are not aware of? And in terms of the scale of grilling, in terms of how tough is the grilling, there hasn't been anything concrete so far. If you compare it with the grilling process of the US Congress, that was more tough and stringent.
Right, Ankit, for the benefit of our viewers, could you please tell us that after that Cambridge Analytica scandal broke out, Facebook was grilled and had to face a lot of heat for the loopholes that were exposed thereafter. Could you please tell us what steps did Facebook take, or assured the governments of various countries that things will be fixed from now on, and the social media giant, what steps did it take to escape the heat? So,
Archana, up till now, we have to say that Facebook has been aggressively looking into the matter. They have become more cautious about the user security and safety. If you talk about what the company has done so far ever since the scandal broke out, so one thing is that Facebook has suspended over 200 apps that were taking user data, that were using large amount of user data. And the second thing is that Facebook has announced a new privacy tool. So what it actually does is, it does two things. One is that people can clear their browsing data from Facebook servers, and also in the first place they can refuse to share that data with Facebook, and at any point of time they can ask Facebook to delete all of their data from servers. However, this feature is not yet available, and the company has only announced it so far. So these are the only two things we say that the company has done so far, and I would in fact say one is yet to come. And the company has been aggressively looking into the privacy of users. But again, this has been happening because the matter is fresh and the company is under fire from both the sides of the Atlantic. But what exactly happens in the months or weeks to come, how exactly users are going to be made secure, is something we're yet to see.
All right, thank you so much, Ankit, for that comprehensive update. So, crucial bit of information coming in. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg apologizing there before the European Union Parliament lawmakers.